Instead of having a few days off in between the two sets of back-to-backs, the Hurricanes are going to head on for a one-game road trip to Tampa to take on the Lightning. Now, the main question is, what's more powerful, a Hurricane or a Lightning?
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes writer over at the Hockey Writers, also the coach of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun Tuesday show for you guys as we get to preview the Hurricanes makeup game against Tampa Bay after the original back-to-back scheduled in October was unfortunately postponed due to Hurricane Milton, so the Hurricanes are going to make that up on Tuesday night. Who are the players to watch? What are the keys to the game? And, of course, we're going to have some injury and roster updates as well. But before we jump into all of that, you can start the season big with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday night, instead of having the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off before their second set of back-to-back against Toronto and Vancouver, instead they get to play against Tampa as they make up the postponed game back from October 12th, where they were supposed to be in Tampa Bay. Of course, Hurricane Milton came to town and changed all of that, so now they're making this game up. So the Hurricanes are 24-14-2 after their win Sunday night against Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay is 20-15-2. The last time these two teams met up, of course, Tampa won 4-1 on opening night in Carolina to give the Hurricanes their first home opener loss to start the season in pretty much in the Rod Brind'Amour era. So this is the second set of three meetings. The last one will be on March 11th back in Carolina, of course, 7 p.m. puck drop, with the game going to be on FanDuel Sports Network South. Now, in terms of where we're at for players to watch in the last 5 games from both sides, Braden Point has 6 points, with Nikita Kucherov with 2 goals, and of course, Braden Point's 6. He has 5 of those being assists. For the Hurricanes, Seth Jarvis leads in points with 8 along with assists, and then Jack Roslovic with 3 goals. Now, going to the tail of the tape, of course, we know how this usually goes. We kind of figure out how the Hurricanes kind of stack up with their opponents. And with this one, it's actually very interesting when you look at the fact that on the power play, the Hurricanes are 10th at 23.6 and second on the penalty kill at 85.4%. While on the flip side, Tampa has the third best power play in the NHL at 26.4 and the 11th penalty kill unit at 82.2. So pretty much almost right neck and neck in terms of whose power play against the other team's penalty kill. They're basically one spot difference on that. In terms of the faceoffs, Hurricanes are 7th at 52.3, with Tampa being at 50.9%. Of course, Carolina 7, Tampa Bay at 14. Now, goals for per game, the Hurricanes are 6 at 3.38, while with goals allowed, they are 10th in the NHL at 2.8. So within the top 10, still pretty good overall. But when you look at Tampa, though, goals for per game, 3.7, which puts them first. And then, of course, goals allowed, 2.81 for 11th. So when you look at Tampa Bay, they are a team that's not afraid to put the puck in the net. The fact that they're averaging 3.7 goals for per game is a pretty scary number to look at. So it's definitely interesting to see how the 10th best team in goals allowed in the Hurricanes are going to try to stifle a Tampa Bay team while they are 20-15-2, are able to put up a lot of goals on the net. So definitely be interesting how that works out. Now, in the last 10 games, Carolina is 5-4-1 after getting, of course, getting that overtime winner against Pittsburgh and then losing that one in the overtime /shootout, came against Columbus, right before the New Year on New Year's Eve. And then with Tampa, they're actually on a 4-game losing streak, losing to Montreal, San Jose, the Kings, and then the Anaheim Ducks. So actually their West Coast road trip in California did not go well. Went out west, dropped 3 losses after losing to Montreal. Of course, they had back-to-back wins against Florida and New York. So they are 5-5 in their last 10 games too. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out with both sides, in the fact that you got where the Hurricanes had a weekend where they did split with losing 4-0 to Minnesota and then being able to, win 4-3 in overtime against Pittsburgh to complete the regular season sweep. Now you're coming into a game that's a makeup where, you had the back-to-back over the weekend. Originally, they had like 3 days off, and then it was another back-to-back against Toronto, and then, Vancouver on Friday with Saturday off. And then, of course, you got the Eric Staal night next Sunday, this upcoming Sunday against Anaheim, where you had 3 games in 4 days. Now you're kind of putting a lot of games in all close together. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Hurricanes kind of turn up for a game where it's, it's a makeup, it's in between where you're supposed to have 3 days off. Now you have, the day off on Monday, go and play Tampa Tuesday, then you're off again Wednesday before you have another set of back-to-backs against 2 teams from Canada, of course, one East, one West in the conferences. So, but you have to hope for the Hurricanes that this is one to where you don't really, you hopefully take that momentum from the Pittsburgh game. You move it into this one against Tampa, because you did lose to them last time 4-1. Of course, it was at home for the home opener. Now you go into Tampa, try to get the makeup win and kind of build on a, try to string along wins, because, they asked Brendan Moore, why is it so tough, recently to get, the team to string together a lot of wins, because you kind of remember, earlier this season where they went 5-4-1 on their road trip, and then, that kind of spawned into an 8-game winning streak. It's been a bit since the Hurricanes have been able to pull off, at least 4 or 5 wins in a row. So you would have to hope that this maybe is kind of a start of another winning streak, especially with the fact that you are 9 points up on Pittsburgh for 3rd place. But you also need to make sure you need to take advantage of the fact you got 2 Atlantic teams coming up in the next 2 days, and of course a Western Conference. But you need to take all the points you can get. So like I said, you have to hope it's one of those things where it's not a Minnesota Wild game where you get you lose 4-0, but hopefully it's not like a Pittsburgh game where you're down 2-0 after 1, you get 3 goals in the second, you let them tie it, and then go to overtime. With how Tampa's playing, like I said, with where their record's at, you really got to hope that it's one of those things where it's you're kind of playing into, a little bit of a faster start. Of course, we'll talk about keys to the game as well. But, another thing to look at in terms of the goaltending, I mean, Pierre Kachakov's 15-8-1 with a 2.48 goals against and a 901 save percentage with a shutout. Andrei Vasilevsky, 16-12-1 with a 237 goals against and a 914 save percentage and 2 shutouts. Most likely that will probably be our goalie matchup, just because it makes sense that way, for where you have the day off, you get the game, and then you have Thursday off right before the back-to-back. So it only makes sense if you're going to go into a game like that where you go up against where most likely it's going to be Vasilevsky. Pierre Kachakov is most likely going to be the starter for that game, because I don't think you throw in a Dustin Tokarski in that factor, because from what we've been seeing in terms of the starts, we're not at a tandem 1A or 1A, 1B situation where there's a lot of swapping. It's basically Pierre Kachekov is the starter and Dustin Tokarski is the straight backup, or it's hey, we need you for a back-to-back. That's kind of where we're at right now in terms of goaltending. And most likely you're probably going to see Tokarski, I would say maybe against Vancouver, unless they put him against Toronto. But, of course, we'll do those later this week. But in this makeup game against Tampa, you just had the day off. Pierre hasn't played since the Minnesota game. It only makes sense you're going to see him go against Tampa. Now, we know what the goalies might be. Of course, we're not really sure yet until we see the morning skates. But who are the other players that that we should watch for the Hurricanes and the Lightning, and what are the keys to the game for the Hurricanes to get back-to-back wins before we have those games later this week? So if you stick around, we'll go over the players to watch and keys to the game here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. From big upsets to game-winning drive, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Now we're going to take a look at to see who are the players to watch, and of course the keys to the game. Now for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, it's no really surprise of. I would say there's at least 4 guys right now that you definitely say in terms of the forwards that you want to keep an eye on. Defense, maybe 1 in terms of Victor Hedman, but I would definitely say, with the fact of Nikita Kucherov is always one of those guys you have to keep an eye on. 17 goals, 38 assists for 55 points, playing over 21 minutes of ice per game. And that's 55 in 35 games. That is a monster season for Nikita Kucherov. No surprises for the fact that he was, top 3 in the NHL last year in terms of points and was in a race for the Hart and all that. Now, there's also Braden Point, who's got 45 points in 33 games. There's also Brandon Hagel, 17 goals, 25 assists, 42 points in 37 games, and he's a plus 12. So, there's a few number of guys that you could talk about. Even Jake Gensel has got 39 points in 36 games, and 21 of those being goals. I would definitely say, an honorable mention has to be Ryan McDonough, who's a plus 17. Kind of surprised at the fact that he came back. But yeah, Nikita Kucherov is definitely one of the guys you need to watch out for Tampa just because he's always dangerous. Definitely a hurricane killer. Of course, we all know what happened last year when he decided to put up a hat trick in the game where they blew out the Hurricanes 8-1. I would say Kucherov is definitely one to watch. Also, Brandon Hagel, because like I said, while he does have 42 points, he is a plus 12. Definitely need to keep an eye on that guy. And also, Sorelli, plus 14, does have 33 points in 36 games. And I think the one guy you really have to keep an eye on, as always, is, Stanley Cup winner Andrei Vasilevsky. While he does have a 16-12-1 record, he still does carry a .914 save percentage and a 2.3 goals against. It's just the 12 losses is just unfortunate when the fact you're not really getting any help from the guys in front of you, which is kind of surprising for the fact that Tampa is 20-15-2. It's just one of those things where you're losing a lot of close games and you have a goals against, that low. I mean, you're talking about a sub 2.4 and, a mid, 9-10s in terms of the save percentage. So definitely I would say Kucherov, also Brandon Hagel, honorable mention to Ryan McDonough is plus 17. Jake Moser's plus 13, but definitely Andrei Vasilevsky, of course, is the one to watch out for in terms of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, for your Carolina Hurricanes, I would say right now keep an eye on Sebastian Aho because he's now 43 points in 40 games. Still is a -3, but just had a big 3-point night where he got up to 600 points now after the goal and 2 assists. Put him at 13 goals on the season and 30 assists, of course. Right now, he's now 30 goals on the team, just behind Nietzsche's at 15 and Roslovic at 17. And in terms of assists, only Nietzsche's is ahead of him with 32. But right now, Aho is currently catching up to Martin Nietzsche's when it comes to points. Now he's only 4 back, where at one point it was, good 10 to 12 back. I would also keep an eye on Seth Jarvis. 11 goals, 18 assists for 29 points in 33 games. He's almost up to a point per game. And that's after his 2-goal performance after shaving the mustache. Now he's up to 11 goals on the season. So definitely, while he's a -2 as well to Aho's -3, those guys are kind of slowly, getting back to form. And after having a multi-point night against Pittsburgh, and they both had 3 points, those are the two guys that definitely keep an eye on, because Aho does have, he's playing exactly 20 minutes of time on ice per game, while Seth Jarvis is playing 19:06. So definitely those are the two guys you really want to keep an eye on. And then in terms of the defense, I would definitely say keep an eye on Jacob Slavin. And not just because of the fact of maybe possible goal scoring or, stuff like that, but just for the fact that, +6, got 12 points. He's playing 21 minutes and 22 seconds, which in terms of the defense is only 3 seconds, fewer than Brent Burns. But in terms of when you're playing against a team like Tampa Bay, I would definitely say Jacob Slavin is one of the guys to keep an eye on, because you're going to have to find out how to keep, Kucherov, Point, Hagel, Gensel as well. So definitely it's going to be one of those nights where Jacob Slavin and probably the special teams are going to be playing, a lot of minutes, some big factors. So you're trying to shut a team down like Tampa. You're going to have to look to the big guys on the defense, and Jacob Slavin's one of them. Of course, we all know how great he is at the shutdown. So that's not going to be surprising. Now, in terms of I gave Tampa an honorable mention. I would definitely say Pierre Kochetkov. If he is starting, I would say he's another one to watch, just because of the fact that, when he plays another Russian goaltender, he kind of downplays it's just another goalie, but he definitely does. His game gets elevated when he's playing a fellow Russian netminder, especially when it's Andrei Vasilevsky. So this is where, if he's calm, cool, collected, like he was against Florida when he played Bobrovsky, I would definitely say going against Tampa and Vasilevsky, this could be a thing where he's going to, if he plays calm in this one, we could probably see another huge performance from him. And, going into the keys of the game, that's kind of one of the keys, is Pierre Kochetkov playing a calm, cool, collected game like he did against Florida. He did it against the Panthers. We saw what he did, only give up the 1 goal, pretty much shut them down, played a dang near flawless game where he was not playing, he wasn't playing crazy, he wasn't getting aggressive, he was just, doing all the right things. So if he does that again, that'd be very huge for the Canes. So if you get a calm, cool, collected Kochetkov like you did against Florida, and he does it this time against Tampa, I think the Hurricanes are in a good spot. If he is in the net, which I would say it probably makes sense to do that, because right now he's definitely more of the starter rather than a tandem per se. And honestly, for this one, it's starting early. Don't go into the game like you did against Minnesota, where you just kind of showed up and were hoping to see what would happen. You can't do that. Even against Pittsburgh, where you kind of had the defensive breakdowns where you let them go up 2-0, with 2 quick goals. This is a situation where you're playing another team in the Eastern Conference. While it's not as points, impactful like would be against a Metro team, you're still talking about an Eastern Conference team where you want to get points. So you have to start early in this one, because Tampa, while they are with their record where they're at 20-15, it's still Andrei Vasilevsky. It's still a team with Kucherov, and Hagel is playing very well, and Gensel and Braden Point. This is still a very dangerous team, and it's even also, like I said, Victor Hedman. You have to get going early. You got to get that arena quiet. You cannot let them get back into it, or just even get into the noise. So starting early is going to be the big thing. And if special teams is going to be a factor, you got to win the special teams battle, because, let the other team score a power play goal, or if you go on the power play and basically get 1 shot on goal on a 4-minute power play, that's very bad. Against Pittsburgh and against Minnesota, that was an absolute rough showing from the power play. Those guys really have to get going. So this is where, if it's as special teams is a factor, you're going to have to win the special teams battle, because against a team like Tampa, if you go on the pellet kill, that's going to be a tough night, especially with the guys they can load up on their power play unit. So basically stay out of the box. And if you get power plays, take advantage because you're not going to get them very often against those guys. Or if you do, you've got to take your shot opportunities. So like I said, if the special teams is going to be a factor, you got to win that battle. And that's also including, starting this game early and getting a calm, cool Pierre Kachekov, who's going to hopefully neutralize Tampa and hopefully get the second win of the week to go for back-to-back wins before you get ready for the back-to-back later this week. So that'll definitely be interesting to see how that works out. So let me know in the comments on YouTube, who are your players you're watching and what would your keys of the game be? So with all that aside, we do have some injury-ish updates. We're still waiting on the morning skate to get the official word, but we also got a recent call-up, of course, everyone knows about, but we're going to talk about it. So stick around as we'll do injury updates and recalls here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financials faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Once again, that's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we saw on Sunday that there was a possible game time decision in terms of the roster, and we found out that it was William Carrier. He did miss out to a lower body injury. When they asked Rod Brennan more about that, he said hopefully it's nothing too serious, but they're going to wait and see once he gets evaluated and go from there. Since the Hurricanes were off Monday, we didn't really have an update. So hopefully this morning on Tuesday with the morning skate, hopefully we do have an update to see, how this lower body thing would look for William Carey. Now, it stinks for the fact that you just got Jack Drury back, but now you lost one of your big guys in terms of the third line with the Jordans. I mean, it's just a tough situation to look at, to where it's the injury bug has really kind of bitten the Canes in the first part of the season, because you lose Frederick Anderson very early. You lose Jack Drury for a few weeks. You now lost Shane Gostisbehere to the IR, which we all know is an upper body, which is kind of crazy for the fact that it's you lost him. Now you lost Tyson Jost for a while, and you get Jack Drury back, but now you lose William Carey, but we don't know how long that's going to be. So we're waiting for that update, which means that Juha Jaaska is back up once again. He's done. He played really well against Pittsburgh. Honestly, the 2 games he's played in for the Hurricanes this year so far, over the last, I would even say, week, he's done pretty good for himself. And, you kind of see why the Hurricanes, have him come in and play really well in his debut and, show that, going from training camp, playing with the Wolves, now getting called up twice. Jaaska has really proven himself, and that's really awesome to see, for the fact that, coming against Florida, do a good job. Go back to Chicago, and then the next year you're back up once again to play Pittsburgh. And he's done really well to earn that shot. So, it's curious to see how he does against Tampa, but it's just unfortunate to where you get Jack Drury back, but now you don't really know how long Shane Gostisbehere is out. Now he's on the injured reserve, and now William Carey is possibly out. You don't know how, you're hoping that it's not long, but if you lose him, now that's, another, you already got your forward cores, but now you're kind of in a tough spot to where now it's like, who do you really, you had Svechnikov, with that group on the third line because you put up Robinson with, Kotkaniemi and Nietzsche's. It's definitely a tough situation for the Hurricanes where it's like you're losing a lot of guys who you kind of were hoping that would stick. Because, Jack Drury out, Tyson Joseph's playing well. Then Jose gets hurt, then Jaaska comes out. Then we get Jack back. Now Carrier's out. They had to recall Jaaska once again. So it's a lot of moving parts over the last week or so just to be able to try to get bodies ready to go. And while you never really want to deal with injuries, I guess if you want to look on the whatever bright side there is or the silver linings, at least it's happening now in early January instead of like what happened to Andrei Svechnikov, back in the 22-23 season where he tears his ACL like a week or two after the trade deadline and he misses the whole rest of the regular season and the playoffs. That's a big piece that you just lost. So, or like last season, like the last game of the season against Columbus, you lose Jesper Foss to a neck injury, and then you lose Brett Pesce to a knee/foot injury against the Islanders. So you miss him for the rest of the Islanders series and the whole Rangers series. So I mean, if you want to look at the silver linings of it all, I guess it's good. I guess it's better to go through this turbulent injury bug situation now rather than going into the playoffs and you're losing a bunch of your guys. It's unfortunate. Hopefully Liam Carey isn't out too long, wishing a safe recovery for him for whatever it is. Like I said, hopefully it's not too long. Hopefully he'll be back very soon. Obviously hoping for a safe recovery for Shane Gostisbehere. Hopefully we get him back very soon too, because that's a very big blue liner that you really want on your defensive core. But also too, gotta give credit to Ty Smith. He got a goal, against Columbus. He's been playing really well with Sean Walker, and Sean Walker's game has been really great over the last couple of weeks. And having Ty Smith there, it feels like he's just kind of came into his own. So while the injuries do stink, at least for the Hurricanes, and the fact that you look at how their style of play in Chicago with Cam Abbott and his staff, it's a seamless transition for those guys coming from Chicago to play with the Canes, because you saw with Jose for a little bit. Now you're seeing it with Jaaska too. And you're also seeing it with Ty Smith, to where they're finding ways to go from Chicago and come into Carolina, and it's a seamless transition of the same style of play, whether it's, before with Chicago was kind of different with how they taught their guys down there and then having to readapt to the Hurricanes and the way they do things. But now for the fact that it's kind of the same on both sides, now it's not as tough for those guys to kind of slide right in. It's the next up mentality for the Canes, which has worked out to why you see guys like Jaaska, just when he did it, and now Ty Smith. They're finding ways to fit in well with the system, and it makes you feel like they've already been there for a while. So hopefully get a lot of safe recoveries for the guys that are out, but it's really good to see the guys like Jaaska and Jose when he did it, like I said, and then now with Smith, they're working their way in and making it work for themselves. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how they play against Tampa. Of course, they were supposed to have the few days off, but now they get this little one-game road trip to make up for the game they lost back in October. And then we got 2 games later this week, which we will preview for the Thursday and the Friday editions of Locked On Hurricanes. But with that being said, this will be the end of the edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making the first pick of the day. For your checklist, and make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin. I do the link trees in both of my bios, where you can check my articles at the Hockey Writers, or just go to thehockeywriters.com, search my author page at Zach Martin. You can find all my stuff there. If you want to check out my other podcasts, well, on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, it's just the Searchcast. For this show, Google, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you listen, all podcast platforms. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating or review, because if you do, I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up button to let me know if you like the show as well. Share it with all other Caniacs so they become everydayers just like you. But I hope everyone enjoyed this Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoys their Tuesday in watching the game with your Carolina Hurricanes and Tampa Bay Lightning. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.